People ask me, they say, Pastor, can I lose my salvation? Well, first of all, I think if you're asking that question, did I lose my salvation? If you're asking that, you probably have an over-imaginative conscience. A lot of Christians do. They're like, oh no, I sinned. Did I lose my salvation? Did God love me? Listen, God will never leave you nor forsake you. You didn't earn your salvation, you're not going to lose your salvation. But here's what I do believe. I believe that if you continue to drift far and long enough, then you can leave Christ. Okay, listen, I don't like the language once saved, always saved. I personally don't like it. Here's the reason why, because I think it's given a lot of you a false assurance that because you had an emotional experience at youth camp, you're good. I meet a lot of people that are like, well, I gave my life to Jesus, and never went back to church. Never read my Bible. My life looks no different. I'm like, man, maybe you didn't even meet Jesus. You probably had an emotional experience, felt a little bad, and you got some get out of hell free card. That's not salvation. Jesus is not a fire insurance. It is not cheap, greasy grace that lets you just get away with and do whatever you want. Like, grace is free, but it's the most expensive thing you got. How much does it cost you? Nothing. How much did it cost Jesus? Everything. And so I would say one or two things. One, you were never saved in the first place. Or two, you've done what Peter said, and you've forsaken your master. And that's not God's fault. That's yours. He says the worst thing to do is to taste of the righteousness of God and walk away, because you'll be held to a higher standard at that point. Better for you to never have been in church than for you to have never, to come to church your whole life and never be in Christ. It'd be better for you to not pretend to be a Christian than for you to claim to be one and not actually be one. Say, Byron, what comes next? You're like a dog who returns to your vomit. You're like a sow washing herself, returning and wallowing in the mud. But Peter's a father. He's an old man at the end of his life. He's going to die shortly after writing this book. They're going to arrest him and crucify him upside down. And this is the last letter he ever writes, and he's writing to his church, and he's an old grandpa. And here's what he's doing. He's trying to teach these young Christians, and he's saying, listen, like a father, he would say, hey, are you thirsty? Come here. There's some water here, but this is a sink, and this is a toilet. They both have water in it, but if you drink from this, you're going to get sick. So my friends, don't drink from the toilet. That's what he's saying. Jesus says, I have water you don't even know about. And now those who come and drink from me, they will never thirst again. This word is life. Right, you thirsty? Come to church. Get some word. Come to Jesus. Get some word. Get some time in prayer. Get some word. Are you thirsty? Drink from the faucet. Don't drink from the toilet. What are you doing? Right, and it all hinges on this word right here. He says, unsteady souls. Unsteady souls. See, Satan loves to prey on unsteady souls. Weak, vulnerable, the most immature and vulnerable out of all of us. The ones who are the most hurting and suffering are the ones who are most likely to be preyed upon by the devil. Right? And so he says, I was thinking about this morning. I was like, well, what are some unsteady souls, some open doors that really draw the attention of the demonic in a person's life? I was just thinking about some open doors and unsteady souls. And this morning as I was praying, I was thinking about one. It's like fear of man. It's a big one. Like, what's going on in their church? They're being persecuted and the pressure to conform to the world. Yeah. But what's happening in ours? I don't like being told I'm hateful and intolerant. I don't like people calling me names. I understand. I get it. I don't like people getting up and walking out of my sermons. I don't like preaching these types of messages. Like, I get it. Like, if I'm feeling this pressure, I can only imagine what you feel knowing that you have friends and family members who are caught up in these lifestyles. But can I just tell you something? Is that if you live for the approval of men, then you'll never be able to please God.